All right, what's up guys? What's going on? So I talked about these ant stations and what we use for ants a long time ago. I promised to make you guys a video with the ant specialist. Well, it's finally happening today. Actually, these were out of stock for a long time. It was really hard to get the bait, really hard to get the dispensers. So now they're back in stock. I'm actually gonna be taking on a pallet of the bait, of the dispensers, probably listing them on the online store with the plants, so we'll have them available because the only person selling them now is like all the way out west. They're not available on Amazon. They're really hard to come by. So kind of hope to start distributing these things throughout the Southeast, and I've had some really good luck with them. And the gentleman, Ken, that's gonna be telling you about ants, the dispensers, how they work, how the ants work, kind of blew my mind when it came to ants. So I've been dying to bring you guys this video. You guys ready to meet Ken? I'm gonna shut up. All right, Mr. Ken, on this hot and humid morning,
Hi, Pete.
You ready to talk ants with us?
Oh yeah, let's talk ants.
All right, let's get into depth here. So tell us a little bit about the different varieties and species of ants, and you know, kind of how your product works and what ants are actually doing out there.
Well, here in the United States, we probably have roughly in the neighborhood of around 500 species of ants. There's 14,000 named species and an estimated 20,000 total. And to keep it simple, their biomass exceeds ours on this planet. In reality, they ignore the fact that we're here, and when we can, we ignore the fact that they're there. They primarily like to farm in flowers and different sugary things. They farm aphids, scale, mealy bugs, and actually raise and protect them from their predators. And that's what affects a gardener the most, in order to be able to harvest their honeydew, which is a sugary protein excrete. So of all the different ant species that we encounter here in this country, like 400 plus species in Florida and maybe 300 close to in California, there's really 50 or 60 that are the players that sort of cause the aggravation clause with humans, whether it's in urban areas or in gardens and farms.
So did I understand that correctly? So these ants almost work symbiotically with the pests?
Yes, they're symbiotic and they're mutualist, meaning they have a mutualistic relationship, but it's a symbiotic relationship as well. They actually enslave the aphids and mealybugs and scale and number of other homopteran insects, but they enslave them in a nice way. They create endorphins by stroking them to be going through their bodies so that they're happy in servitude. And they also protect them from the predators, and there's probably 9 or 10 predators for every one of those insects out there, more or less. They're at the bottom of the food chain of insects. Everything moves up until you get to the elephants and whales, and there's less of everything as you go up in size. Go down to bacteria and fungi, it's smaller. Go to insects, they're actually pretty average size for our planet. And so ants are sort of the ultimate social biomass. People say to me when I do talks, do I think they think? They think in a very methodical way that's part of the organization. They think independently and as part as a whole, but their main purpose is they have a specific job from birth that they follow through on, and their main thing is to protect the queen, and we rarely see more than 5 or 10% of them. So in essence, what they do that comes in conflict with us is when they either come in our homes or go in our attics in different areas, but from the standpoint where their most impact is in farming, because all of the pesticides that are going into the crops and everything else. Now what AntPro was developed to do was to be target specific. It contaminates the ants, and in 40 hours the foragers that carry the bait back in their social stomachs, they carry enough bait in this large expandable bladder to feed up to 12 other ants per trip. They feed their queen, the brood, and the colony, and we take the whole colony out without killing other insects that are beneficial to the environment. For things to grow in nature, whether it's a stand or trees or a monocrop, you have to have a balance in the positive and negative insects that go into those areas. So ants are a big problem in agriculture, but they're a problem more as the instigator of issues and moving these insects about to the freshest part of the plant or the youngest, tenderest part of the plant so that they can get the best food. And the ladybugs and other predators, tactid flies, ladybugs, hoverflies, all kinds of predatory insects, a lot that as larvae are predators and as adults are pollinators, because we think of bees as being the only pollinators, and actually there's numerous forms of pollinating bees as well as pollinating other insects that things wouldn't grow if we didn't have them. So the ants that are the bad actors tend to make a problem with the things growing, damage to fruit, damage to vegetables, indirectly and directly depending on the species of ant.
What about native ants? I mean, do we have native ants that aren't as invasive here? Or what happens with the native ants, with these aggressive ants?
What we're getting more and more is ants from other countries. For instance, we have one right now that's in Florida that's called the tawny ant. A few years ago, it was called the Caribbean crazy ant until they renamed the common name for it, that are billions per acre. The Argentine ant, which is originally from the area of Argentina, is the most populous ant in the southern United States and represents billions of dollars in damage, and more people have a problem with that in California, Louisiana, Texas, some parts of Florida, but we have 400 plus species of ants, so they don't do as well. Indigenous ants, such as I just ran into one here, the standard crazy ant, a member of the PHARAOH family, are native to Florida, but they're also considered to be invasive ants in other countries, because when ants survive making a trip across the ocean, now it used to be tramp steamers, and now it's tramp airplanes, etc. Most of those insects behave a little differently that survive when they go to new locations. Just like when people came to the United States, or what was the colonies back then, you didn't move across the mountains, you moved next to your family in order to do it. And what invasive ants do is they colonize by expanding out from the colony, not having nuptial flights and going long distances. So in that way, they're able to expand in areas much greater than they hop a ride on an RV or a truck, and they get expanded until they reach a point where the weather doesn't allow them to exist, or they adjust to the weather over time. We've got a European fire ant that isn't really a fire ant in Canada and the northeastern United States that wasn't here probably 40 years ago, and really just started showing up because the numbers started to appear where people started to see them. And it's originally from Norway, and it comes out in the snow before other ants would even appear in the springtime. So it's got kind of a bizarre ant. It's called a fire ant because it has a stinger. A lot of ants don't have stingers. They have mandibles in order that they can pinch you. But there's stinging ants, and then there's non-stinging ants. But a lot of the really aggressive ants don't have to sting because they can slime their enemies with a formic acid when they do battle. So ants are a lot of fun. So I've been doing them for quite some time now.
Have you found any benefits to ants yet?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There are a lot of ants that don't interact with us, that we don't even know they're there, and that do interact with other ants that do cause problems. So like with insects, when insects are affected and we broadcast spray or bait something, we're killing a number of things, 99 good bugs to get to one bad bug. And the same thing applies with ants. So you want to be target specific about what you're doing. And we did now we've been in at least 15 university studies, and in all of them we've been successful with the Argentine ant and other superorganism ants, taking them out without destroying or killing the beneficial insects, and recreating the balance, and especially the sustainable crops that use less insecticides, what some people would call organic.
So this is, I guess, what you've been effective with then. This is your solution to the ant problem then, Ken?
Yeah, the Ant Pro dispenser is activated by the ants, and the only way the ants feed inside the dispenser and carry the bait back to the colony, and through a process called trophallaxis, which is regurgitating, they feed the other ants back at the colony. So the Ant Pro gives them 360-degree access, and they're able to feed at it, and they can make several trips, up to 40 or 50 hours worth, before they succumb to the very minor amount of boric acid salts that are in the bait. So that it's not going to affect other insects, it only gives the ants access and roaches. But roaches are social insects, so one roach isn't going to contaminate numerous other roaches. For instance, if you were to take the Argentine ant, the dispenser feeds around 300 plus ants at a time, and they feed in turn 27,900 ants. And so when you take the numbers, one dispenser can take out over 12 million ants, but in reality what you're doing is you're taking out the queens back at the colony, and Argentine ants and other superorganism ants have multiple queens. People tend to think of ants as having a queen, and most of the successful ant species have numerous queens per thousand.
You made my head spin again.
Yeah, the numbers.
The numbers.
It's always the numbers.
You want to show us how these things work a little bit, Ken?
Yeah. He's got a stake in here. The stake gets inserted and crimps up in here to keep it in contact with the ground. You put them in the shade because ants don't feed in the sun. You fill it up with about 600 milliliters, or what is a little over 16 ounces, around 18 ounces of liquid in here. And then you spin the base on, and there's a gasket that seals it. On the collar here, there's surface tension stress ducts. So what happens is, after the bait's inside the dispenser, and you place the bait in the shade with the stake in it, you activate it 1/2 turn, and the ants can access the pool area, and they trigger the surface tension stress ducts, meaning liquid doesn't go into the pool because it would evaporate over time. When ants are present, they trigger the stress ducts and fill the pool and feed at it all the way around the 360 degrees. Then they take the bait back to the colony and regurgitate and feed the nursery, the queens, and the other ants. And so what they're doing is, they don't know they're being contaminated. Over a period of between 40 and 50 hours, depending how far away the nest is, they're going back and feeding the primary key ants to the colony, and they're taking out the whole colony, not just the foraging ants. When we bait surface areas with granular baits, or we use broadcast insecticides, we're killing everything that goes over it that's susceptible, and most things that don't have an exoskeleton like an insect are more susceptible to the insecticides than we are. So with the universities and the researchers, we've been developing a number of new ways to do various problematic insects without having something that's actually taking out the beneficial insects that we so dearly need. For instance, these newer insecticides that are out there in the food crops are strongly believed, and we believe there's the documentation now, that they're destroying the honeybees and the other pollinators. Without them, nothing's going to grow, or at least 300 plus different types of crops that are pollinated by bees and all other pollinators. Bees have to stop and get a drink of water, and a lot of these systemics get the liquid off of the leaves early in the morning because it's a form of glutation that's leached out by the plants as they cross the crops. And so in some states, we've got a 43% reduction in bee populations, which now they're actually importing bees to do almonds in California from Australia and other places because of the colony collapse, which is believed by a lot of scientists to be due to these insecticides. So we have to look at things a little differently in the way we're doing it, both in agriculture, in gardening, and in the urban environment. And so we're looking at different ways of using insect cues, the way they communicate with each other and send chemical signals, to have them lock on, and we can target specific them only and leave the good guys and girls to go their merry way and do the positive things for agriculture. So one of the things I forgot to mention, we work both in sustainable crops, which are farmers who use less insecticides, but we've been organically certified food crop compliant by the USDA since 2006. So we do a lot of organic citrus, strawberries, almonds. We do a tremendous amount of different types of vegetables and crops, and to keep the population of aphid, scale, and mealybugs that carry diseases down. And so it's one of the things we're proud of. Unfortunately, you get labeled as being organic. We really want everybody to use less insecticides and think a little bit more in ways to grow things in a much more bio-rational and biological way. So the ecology is good for all of us. And if there's anything, as far as the phone, anytime people have questions about various insect problems or their ants and their particular problem, I've been available on the phone and through the internet now since we started Ant Pro 19 years ago.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Awesome work, Ken.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I told you guys Ken had a ton of information about ants. I tried not to make that video too long. Ken could have probably talked to us for about an hour. I'm going to try to do a video with Ken maybe every 6 months, a year, get a little bit more detailed information, take notes on any questions you guys drop down below. Make sure I get those in the next video. But I have had great success with Ken's product, and I use these ant stations, I guess, for the first time about maybe this time last year. Actually, this is when the ants seem to be getting about the worst. During rainy season, they really seem to come up high on the plants. So I'll be walking out through the food forest and they just get all over me. I started Googling, and when I found Ken's product and started using it, it knocked my populations back about 90%. And I would say the only reason they've even come back now is my own laziness and my own not having any time to refill those bait stations. I can tell you, some of them were empty in like 2 weeks. Some of them were empty in 2 months. But I did notice everywhere that we put those, the populations were way down. So these things seem to work. I mean, I have people every single day sending me products to promote, to try out. I will not just promote or show off any single product. I really like to try something. I really like to believe in something. I really like to know that something works, especially before I show you guys. So the fact that we've had good success with this, I've had a kind of about a year-long relationship with Ken now. Thought it was time to bring this out to you guys and show it, show you kind of how it works, what it does, and really get some detailed information about ants. So I hope you guys enjoyed this short video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. And you guys know what we do around here. What, pound ants?